Welcome to The Mental Fight, a safe place to ignite hope and peace, where we talk all about authentic feelings, even in the depths of life's curveballs. I am passionate about emotional and spiritual health. Regardless of the season you are in, you are worthy, safe, heard, and loved. Together and with God, we can overcome and embrace our next joyful steps, one day at a time. Let's get started. Hey, friend. Welcome to today's episode. So, last week we talked about the lies in our heads, and today I want to dive deeper into comparison. Comparison is something so near and dear to my heart, and it's something I've had to overcome over and over again. For me, comparison is something I know a little too well because, like I've said before, I used to hate everything about myself. From the way I looked, my personality, to the way I talked, friendships, and literally every little thing about myself, inside and out. As a teen, I stared at people's backs all the time because I couldn't believe how straight their backs looked. They were normal and what backs were supposed to look like. And I was in awe, wishing I had that too. I wanted nothing more in life than to have a healthy and normal spine, one that was symmetrical from one shoulder blade to the other, and one that had a natural curve. I wished I could wear certain things, but I couldn't because of my bulky plastic back brace from my collarbone to just below my tailbone, at least for a few years, full time. And I often thought, man, other kids don't know how good they have it without scoliosis, without a brace, without extra pain, and without a care in the world in that aspect. And maybe I was naive, but that's how I felt at the time. And in high school, I still felt like I couldn't wear certain things because my back was so uneven. And then I started gaining weight, slowly each passing year, along with my worsening spine. I wished I was thinner, and I wished I wasn't so tall at one point, or I wished that I was naturally more outgoing. I hated my hair, teeth, even my eye color. I remember writing down my goal list for high school in junior high, and I wrote down blonder hair, green contacts, completely superficial. Now, if you were a young teen or a teen in the early 2000s, you know what I'm talking about. Colored contacts were a thing, and I hated my dark brown eyes. They were anything but beautiful to me at the time. I essentially hated everything God made me to be. I always wanted a life like hers. And by hers, I mean anyone else around me, because every girl seemingly had a better life than I did in my young mind. At least that's what it seemed like from the outside, which fueled comparison even more. I never felt satisfied with who I was, what I looked like, and I was honestly embarrassed and ashamed. Looking back, I find that incredibly sad, especially as a 13-year-old. It's no way to live or to treat ourselves. This world is hard enough as it is without our own critique. But sadly, the world around us tells us we're not enough. And I also wish I was more aware of the world and people around me to know that we all have faults and comparisons of our own. Even if it seems like our issues seem worse than others, maybe that's not the case after all. Comparison steals our joy, and I certainly didn't have joy in my life. But I also know I'm not alone. We all deal or have dealt with comparison in one way or another, especially during our formative years. And if you've dealt with health issues, that can also cause specific doubts, insecurities, and cycles of comparison. If comparison comes naturally, maybe some of us are still dealing with it, still dealing with the negative self talk or idolizing others. Maybe it's gotten worse as we age. Trauma can make comparison worse. Chronic health issues can make comparison worse. And also, just growing up in general is hard. And we're just trying to figure out our lives and ourselves with what we're handed. As adults, we may compare our friend circles still. We may compare outfits, appearances, vacations, kids, or lack thereof. With social media, comparison runs rampant. And we may not even realize the damage it's doing. It becomes a toxic trend in our lives, and it's normalized. But the influencers of today don't have to wreck our spirit. We can choose who we follow, unfollow, and do it for our mental health. We can choose to focus on what we can control in our own little bubble. We can make a conscious effort to do things differently, break out, and make healthier patterns. Because the wave of comparison doesn't have to knock us down. Not anymore. We don't have to live in competition mode, especially as adults. And it can get better. Life can get better, fuller, and feel purposeful. We may feel like we're not enough, but in God's eyes, we are beautifully and wonderfully made. We're His creations, and we should remind ourselves of that every day. When we shift our focus from lacking to living in the present with where our lives are going and the blessings we do have, gratitude takes over. Gratitude trumps comparison, and we become healthier mentally and physically. And with gratitude comes assurance and confidence. Comparison makes us feel hurt, defeated, left out, and we're our own worst enemy. Maybe you're always wanting something more. The next best gadget, sweater, house, perfect family photos, or lifestyle. But none of that is real. The highlight reel is a trap. It only causes us stress and it sucks the life out of us because we're only wanting and craving more. And we won't enjoy our lives like we should. With that mindset and pattern, it will only cause more damage. It causes more damage than we realize. Photos don't show anxiety, depression, relational issues, or what's really happening behind closed doors. Everything is hidden. So the next time you feel uneasy or see your favorite influencer showing off her best life, rest on what's real in your own life. Rest on the truth. Refocus on what God says about you and what truly matters on this side of heaven. Don't waste any more time wishing you had a different life or circumstance, because we miss out on so many of life's beautiful and precious moments when we get caught up with comparison, when we don't live in the moment. And comparison fuels anxiety and depression. I know I have wasted so much energy, time, and memories that I can't take back, moments that I can't take back. And I wish I was in the moment more. I wish I spent less time on my phone or comparing myself in all the ways. But I also know, moving forward, change is possible. And it's possible for you too. And years later, I can now see clearly. Comparison steals our peace and hinders our own healing. If comparison is just killing your spirit and you feel the ick deep down in your soul, seek God. Ask Him for holy guidance and support. Support that's apart from this world, even apart from the advice of people around us. Because having a worldly view will always leave us empty handed, begging us for more. Ask for true appreciation and realignment. Remind yourself that you're uniquely talented, beautiful, and you have inner gifts. Even if no one else can see, even if it's the type of gift that can't be articulated or shown off in an Instagram post. Perhaps we don't need to be seen in the best light. For what? To show off our lives? To make us seem better than others? That's not a life worth having. And that breeds a life of sinful behavior, toxic behavior, and one that can wreck everything that we're meant to do and be in this world. And God wants more for our character, happiness, and our purposeful lives. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God and what is good and acceptable and perfect." So, in sum, I want to say a few last words. You're loved. You're worthy. You're chosen beyond the comparisons in your mind. And I pray comparison slowly fades from your everyday life, routine, and racing mind. I pray you understand the fullness of God's purpose for your life, and may His desires cover you with peace and certainty, and may it overshadow the triggers of your past and present. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. If this encouraged you, I'd be so grateful for a rating or review. Until next time, have a wonderful